Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where the goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast is number 1438. The topic is mindset, and the title is Happy Dream or Miserable Reality. Sounds very motivating, I'm sure. But what do you want more? Which do you want more? Do you want a happy dream or a miserable reality? Do you want the hope of something better or a failed attempt at something better? A lot of people have dreams, goals, things they want to achieve, things they wish would happen, but they don't start or they don't fully commit to making them happen because what if it doesn't happen? What if you risk the happy dream and end up with a miserable reality? What if you try but fail? A lot of people I talk to as part of like our business service are entrepreneurs who are risking their happy dreams to try to make them a happy reality. We meet and discuss like business ideas and either like how they can start a business with a greater chance of success or how they can create more success within a business they've already started. And then sometimes in conversation, the topic of why they wanted to start or why they did start comes up. And a common phrasing is, I just had to do it. I had to try. They had a hunger in them that they could feel like risking their happy dream was worth the risk, so they didn't end up with another feeling, which is sad regret. It was worth risking the happy dream. It was worth risking the happy dream turning into a miserable reality to avoid the feeling of sad regret. Why? Why are some people more fearful, more driven to avoid regret than others? Now, there are a lot of factors, and I'm aware that I'm unaware of probably all the factors that go into that. I understand that. But one thing like I think of is a happy dream unfortunately would turn into regret eventually. Eventually if you don't make an attempt to make your happy dream a reality, you'll be unhappy later when it never became a reality. Now I understand you might be thinking, okay, well if I try to make it a reality and it fails now, then I'll be unhappy now. So if I don't ever try and I end up being unhappy later, oh well, at least I'm not unhappy until later. So when do you want to be unhappy? Do you want to be unhappy now or later? And that's an easy choice. I'd rather be unhappy later if I have to be unhappy. But I don't think it's helpful to think of our goals and our dreams in that way. So what do you want more? The dream of what could be, or the risk of losing that dream? Is that dream enough for you right now? That's something to consider. Is the dream of happiness creating enough happiness for you right now? Are you happy? Are you content? Do you wake up each day thinking, I'm satisfied, I could stop here, and this would be enough? Or do you wake up and think, I'm okay here. I'm grateful for what I have, but I want to see if I could do more. If you're not content, if you're not okay with being done now, then recognize the longer you hold on to that happy dream, the longer you delay the feeling of feeling any better, feeling more satisfied, feeling more settled in what you've accomplished and where you are. If you're unsettled, if you're unsatisfied, if you're still hungry for more, then waiting isn't going to make it any better. So recently in a podcast, I talked about, it was the MVP podcast, a couple podcasts ago, and I talked about how often good enough turns into it not being good enough. If we do things minimal, Like this is, this is, this isn't what I want. This isn't perfect. This isn't even great. It's just good enough. It doesn't feel good enough because you're always wanting more. You're always aware that there is better. So good enough doesn't feel good enough. The minimum doesn't feel good over time. If you're just trying to plug some holes in a sinking boat, then good enough is good. It does the trick. But once the boat's not sinking, all of a sudden good enough doesn't feel good enough. You have to go back through and kind of patch things up, bolster things, make it a little bit better, kind of build it up. But a lot of times we're feeling like we're running around, patching up holes, and we never go back to make anything any better. So your happy dream may feel good for now, but when will that start to fade? When will the happy dream feel more like a sad reminder? A reminder of what could have been rather than what might be. If you still want to achieve more in your life, if you still have a goal, if you're not totally okay with never achieving that goal, then you got to start. And what's great is there's still time. If you're alive and you're listening to this podcast, there is still time. Does not matter. I've had people contact me in their 50s and 60s and 70s and saying like, well, I know, I might be too old for blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, hell no. I always send them back. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, if you're breathing and you're alive to send me that email or give me that phone call, then you're totally freaking fine and there's tons of time. If you're not dead yet, there's still a lot of living left to do. So there's still time. And what I think is very motivating and very helpful to remember is that what it takes to progress towards your dream isn't that much. But 5 minutes a day. Just one action a day. It's just giving 1 unit of effort above your baseline. Above what you do now. It doesn't mean that you have to change everything in your life and risk losing everything in your life. There's often ways to make progress in the margins of life. In those extra 5 minutes, in that extra, couple hours on a weekend. There's space in our life to test the waters. To see what momentum you can build. To see what you know, what you don't know, what areas you need to work on. There's room in the margins of our lives to pursue the goal before you have to really risk anything. Maybe you need the forced commitment and the forced motivation by risking everything. Okay, well, hell, if that's you, go for it and good luck. But if that scares you, and that fear is preventing you from moving forward, recognize that there's room in the margins. It just takes 5 extra minutes a day. 1 extra action. Just a small step. That's all it takes to start. So, if you have a happy dream, something that you would love to have eventually happen, and that's given you enough contentment to think of that as a happy thing in the now, okay. But be careful, because that happy dream, unfulfilled, does eventually turn into regret. So just be careful that you don't let your dreams die. You don't watch them pass you by. All it takes is small steps to get started. Just one little thing more. That can start the momentum to something bigger. You can often feel even happier than you do now because you know you're working towards it, rather than just dreaming of it. So I encourage you that if you're afraid to pursue a happy dream because you don't want it to turn into a miserable reality, to be careful that it doesn't turn into sad regret. Try for the dream. see what you can do. If I was younger and I wanted to get in the NFL, and I never made it, but I got to play college football. Maybe then you got to coach like a youth college team, and you made a big difference in a lot of young kids' lives. That's a hell of a victory right there. It's often the pursuit of a dream is what brings contentment. Not even that you necessarily had to reach the dream. It's just the pursuit of it opened up more opportunities. It gave you more confidence. And that's just invaluable. So I hope that if you have a dream, something you want to do, don't leave it as a want. Start to put some work to it. I believe it'll make you feel happier in the now, and it'll prevent that feeling of regret later on. So take some steps, even small ones, any ones. Just try something that can start to make that dream a reality. Okay. Well, I wish you the best of luck. If there's anything I can help with, let me know. If you do have a nutrition-based goal, we have podcast 1232 is a nutrition podcast titled Start Here. You can listen to that and take all the steps you want on your own. It'll take you step by step on what to do. We also have a $100 a month nutrition coaching service. So for $100 a month, I take care of all that for you. So I'll give you all the things to start with, and I'll communicate with you every single week and kind of give you some assistance along the way. Then if you want to have a training goal, we have podcast 1010, so 1010 is a training podcast titled Training Program Creation Example, and it talks through how to make your own training program. If you want help with that service is $200 a month, where I'll write your full nutrition programming. That's all personalized to you, and your training programming, because nutrition has to match your training for the training to actually work. So we do your nutrition coaching and training. Everything's personalized and programmed, and I talk to you every single week. So that's $200 a month. Then for our business people, if you want to start a fitness-related business, podcast 1162 is a Q&A podcast titled Business Education Service. So that way you can kind of learn more about that service that we offer to people if they want to help kind of progress and grow in their business. So there's tons of services available, but there's tons of free stuff available as well. I only ever have the services if you want them, but hopefully it's never, coming across as a commercial or something that you have to buy anything. I want to just continue to provide stuff for free as much as I can, and I hope that everybody gets something from this. So thank you for listening to the podcast. If you like our podcast, please consider sharing it. The more people we share the podcast with, the more people that are helped by the podcast. That's the whole goal. So if you share it on social media, that's the best way. If you share it in a conversation with a friend, that works as well. Just the more you share it, the more it helps others. So thank you. Thank you to the patrons of the podcast, people who financially support the podcast. The podcast is well over $1,000 a year for hosting costs. I give an hour to it every day. So, and I want to keep it for free. I appreciate the donations. They go towards helping to cover some of those costs. So thank you very much to those who do donate. If you want to donate, you can do so at our website, www.brutalirongym.com. There's an option there for one-time donation, monthly donation, yearly donation. Anything you can give, even $5 a month, it goes a long way when you're adding up towards like a year-long costs. So thank you very much to everybody who donates. Also, if you like the information we share in our podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. If you have any questions, feedback, suggestions, anything you want to know, let us know at our email at brutalirongym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.